And good morning, everybody. Welcome to Hot Takes Goodman and Haertl. Bruce, how are you this morning?
I'm good, Eric. Your weekend was good, I trust?
It was a good weekend. How about you?
Not bad, not bad. Had my oldest daughter in town from Phoenix along with her boyfriend, so got to show her a little bit of Denver, if she's fairly familiar with it, but good to see them. So that was always kind of a fun thing. And the calm before the proverbial storm, right, with the Broncos opening this week. I joke that this is kind of the start of our fiscal year, for lack of a better description.
Right.
I mean, the Broncos are kind of the start of the year. It's the first thing that really kind of marks the start of our year. Maybe a little early or a little late. I'm not sure on your perspective on that. But anyway, I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to it this week and looking forward to it in the months to come.
Hey, I want to tell you about Sportsbook Bar and Grill. Now that the football season is starting to heat up, before you know it, we're going to be having a preseason Broncos game. Where are you going to watch it? My suggestion, the Sportsbook Bar and Grill, easily the best sports bar in town, or should I say best sports bars in town, because they have locations in the DTC, in Highlands Ranch, where I go, opening soon in Parker. Every seat is a great seat. It is a sports bar that was formed and it is owned by sports fans. So they put together a sports bar that I know that you will love. I absolutely love going to this place. Food is outstanding as well. Appetizers, outstanding. Healthy options like Brussels sprouts. If you want to go with the cheese curds, you can too. Great burgers, great wings as well. All different types of sauces. Go check out the Sportsbook Bar and Grill in the DTC, Highlands Ranch, and coming soon to Parker. Time now for the lead.
The lead is presented by Sasquatch Casino, a family-owned casino that treats you like family.
All right, the Broncos have not had a quarterback-head coach combo in consecutive years since 2014. Here is your list starting in 2014. It was Fox and Manning. In 15, Kubiak and Manning. In 16, Kubiak and Simeon. 17, Joseph and Simeon. 18, Joseph and Keenum. 19, Fangio and Flacco. 20, Fangio and Locke. 21, Fangio and Bridgewater. 22, Hackett and Wilson. 23, Payton and Wilson. 24, and now 25, Payton and Nix. Bruce, is it fair to say that if you don't have the right quarterback, it's going to always put your head coach in jeopardy of losing his job? And if Nix indeed is the guy, how far will this extend Sean Payton's tenure?
Well, to your point, Eric, continuity, really, if the simplification of the whole exercise here is continuity is key. Now, you got to have good continuity. You've got to have two pieces of the puzzle that fit well and that give you an opportunity to go win. But that continuity, I think, is important on so many different levels. First of all, it indicates that a coach actually has his quarterback. This is an offensive-minded coach. So it's even more important that he has his quarterback. I was chuckling thinking about Fangio and thinking about, Vance. And there have been a lot of defensive years where you match a defensive-thinking head coach with a quarterback. Well, you've got a full-time offensive head coach with a quarterback. They have a great deal of confidence in one another, and it should serve them and the Broncos extremely well moving in the future. I think all of us feel like we're a long ways from this really being at its absolute apex, and we still feel pretty darn good about where it is right now.
I mean, I say all the time, show me a Hall of Fame head coach, and I'll show you a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah.
Rarely does it work the other way around. One reason why I would argue that Joe Gibbs and Bill Parcells are two of the greatest, if not the greatest coaches of all time, has to do with their quarterback play. I mean, they went to the Super Bowl. They have won Super Bowls without Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Joe Theismann, not in the Hall of Fame. Doug Williams, not in the Hall of Fame. Mark Whitman, not in the Hall of Fame. That's on the Gibbs ledger. And then you have Bill Parcells, Jeff Hostetler, Sims, Bledsoe. None of them went to the Hall of Fame either. That is an outlier as much as anything else. But in today's game, if you don't have a top 10 quarterback, you're probably going to be looking for a new job probably within 3 to 4 years. Look at the Dallas Cowboys. They've had Dak Prescott. They've had changes, right?
Yeah. No, you're right. It's the one thing that you've got to get right. Basically, on any roster, you've got to get that element right. Coach, quarterback, coach. They've got to be symbiotic. They've got to be able to work together seamlessly, all of the things that go into it. And then on top of it, you've got to have a good skill set from the quarterback to be able to effectively run the offense that he is being asked to run. So there is no question. I think it's probably the most important 1-2 pairing of coach and fill in the blank position player in all of sports. You got to have a good coach that is in lockstep with his quarterback. Yes, I would agree with that.
I mean, if you have a top 10 quarterback, maybe even a top 5 quarterback, unless you have found a way to completely screw this up, you should always have a job. I mean, let's go. How good would the Bengals coach be? And I'm sure he's very good without Joe Burrow. I know he couldn't win games without Joe Burrow. Now that he has Joe Burrow, he wins games. Andy Reid is an exception. Patrick Mahomes, Donovan McNabb, 2 great quarterbacks, right? You know, he's always done okay. Yeah. You know, where would Sean Payton be today if he didn't have Drew Brees? With that, continuing on with Sean Payton, we're going into year 3. Are the Broncos with Payton on schedule, behind schedule, or are they ahead of schedule?
Well, they're ahead of schedule for a situation that they decided to make for themselves. And they have handled it to this point, flawlessly. Right. And that is to part ways with Russell Wilson. So to take the 2-year hit on an $80+ million deal, that was a little bit of a risk. They found the right guy, and they've been able to get past that risk, at least to this point. So from that standpoint, they're ahead of schedule. They were in the playoffs in year 2, 2 years after a 5-win disaster with Nathaniel Hackett that cost him his job before the end of the season, blah, blah, blah. Everybody in Broncos country knows the tune, and it's not a very good one to listen to. So I would say that on one hand, they're certainly ahead of schedule, and they're even more ahead of schedule when you stop to consider the financial plight that they're in. But part of that financial plight is something that they decided to take on. So I would say ahead of schedule, pleasantly ahead of schedule, and we'll see how much further ahead of schedule that they can get. Eric, if they are into win a playoff game, win a couple playoff games, strata, 3 years into Sean Payton, considering what they've taken on, that's, I think, would be pretty remarkable. I don't know how anyone could take any exception to those kinds of results. I think this is a playoff team. How many games can they win in the playoffs now? That's the way that we're judging. This time a year ago, you hoped maybe they could do something, heretofore unseen. They did. But now you're expecting bigger and better things, and that means winning in the playoffs. We'll see.
Right. We put a lot of emphasis, at least I do, I'm guessing you do too. You put a lot of emphasis on ownership. Stronger the ownership, the better the franchise is going to be. When you look at the Joe Ellis era, strictly the Joe Ellis era, after Pat Bowlen was not able to perform at the level that he wanted to as the owner, right, what's the one thing quickly, what's the one thing you remember most about the Joe Ellis era? Being the steward of the Bowlen Family Trust.
That it was a trust.
Yeah, but in terms of on the field, what do you remember that ownership group being best for?
Well, they won their championship, and then everything slid. And
that's my point.
Yeah, right.
And that's my point.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people will say, well, it was a disaster under Joe Ellis.
Mm-mm.
Look what happened. Right. But hold on.
Right.
They will say it was a disaster because they didn't have strong ownership. That's why we had Joseph and Fangio and multiple different quarterbacks. But they conveniently forget that under the stewardship of Joe Ellis, they also went to the Super Bowl twice. Yeah. So the reason why I'm asking is, wow, it's gone pretty well so far, outside of really the first year for Greg Penner. So has it been ownership, the reason why this has steadied, or they happen to find the right quarterback? They have the right coach, no question. They have the right coach in Sean Payton. But what if Sean Payton, I don't want to play the what if game, what if he doesn't get Bo Nix? Then what are we looking at heading into training camp? Isn't it really, as much as we want to put the emphasis on ownership, and rightfully so, and who the head coach is, and clearly, looking back, you could have given up more draft capital for Sean Payton, and it would have been worth it. But really, isn't it all about if you don't have the right quarterback, that quarterback makes everybody look bad, or in the case of a great quarterback, that quarterback makes everybody look good?
It's a simplification of a formula that I think comes in three parts. And the cliche is you've got to have good ownership, good head coaching, and a good quarterback. To your point, if you start weighing one against the other in the triad, you take the quarterback because the quarterback is the one that is on the field, the right. one that is making plays or not making plays. So it's hard to overcome that because he controls so much of the results that end up playing out. So, but I think that what the Broncos have done is very much about ownership, coaching, quarterback play. They have, I mean, Eric, you've been here a lot longer than I've been here. And Mr. Bolin obviously will always be legendary in Broncos country. Has it ever been better than it is right now with those three elements? I mean, obviously, no. I mean, better. I'm not saying that it hasn't been very similar. I'm not saying that it has that it might be equal, but this is a franchise right now that is ascending, whereas the Ellis Trust ownership was descending after Super Bowl 50, pretty clearly descending. This is ascending, and it would be difficult to see the Broncos being anything other than a very strong, relevant force in the AFC from this point forward for the next, 8-9 years? How could anyone think anything different at this point?
Well, would you feel that way if Bo Nix wasn't the quarterback?
Well, no. I mean, I don't know
who's the most important of the three. Is it Penner, Nix, or Payton? If you have to lose one, which guy can you least afford to lose?
Well, there's different answers because there's overarching answers. In the moment, it's your quarterback. I mean, do they win 10 games last year with someone in that quarterback room that's not named Bo Nix? Probably not, right? I mean, so I guess in the moment, it would be the quarterback. Overarchingly, it will be your ownership, the consistency of your ownership, the decision-making that they employ, their understanding of culture and family and who a good coach will be. I mean, this is their coach. Now, it may not have been their first pick for coach. I mean, we've talked about that a lot in the wake of Nathaniel Hackett. But here they are, and they have every now and then a franchise arrives at a place where they have all of the three elements of the triad in perfect position. And I would argue that the Broncos have that right now in ownership, coaching, and quarterback.
Okay, I want to take this in another direction. Usually this is a conversation that we would have when the schedule comes out. I took a look at the schedule, and this is something that I completely missed. Okay? And I was like, wow, this is pretty significant. Tell me if you noticed this, because I didn't right away. I looked at their schedule, and I, you know, how many home games they have in a row, and did they start the season, with a tougher schedule, or is the end of the season a tougher schedule, so on and so forth. Did you realize that the Broncos have a single home game from September 8th until October 19th?
Yes. I was aware that the back end of the schedule was loaded with home dates,
right?
As opposed to the front.
I know that too. It's 7 of 11.
Right.
7 of their final 11 games are home games in Denver. One of the home games between, September 8th and the 19th is in London. That is a home game, but it's not in Denver. They have one game in Denver in about 6 weeks. And it's not an easy schedule to start.
No.
With that, how much emphasis should be put on that, in theory, they're not sleeping in their own beds, consistently, not for even 2 weeks in a row? I mean, what would be a reasonable outcome in those opening 6 games? And let's say it isn't that good. Let's say, for the sake of argument, they're 2-4. Do they have enough runway on the back end with 7 of 11 games at home to make up for it? Now, we're oversimplifying this clearly because we haven't even talked about who the opponents are, right? I mean, for all we know, those 7 home games could be against, which they're not, against 7 teams that made the playoffs, and that's not the case. But is that a bit of a concern that the start of the season is just so heavy on the road, and that includes a game in London, which ironically is considered a home game?
Yes, and Sean Payton has said as much without directly answering the question by simply saying on numerous occasions, we have to get off to a good start. It's something that we haven't been able to do in the 2 years. So that, just by inference alone, is we've got to do well in a difficult part of the schedule, difficult for how you just laid it out. Can the Broncos go 4-2 in that stretch? That's probably the top end. 3-3 would be very manageable. I think you go shoot. We just don't know how. Are the Broncos going to be good enough to just impose their will? It's a very difficult thing to do in the NFL. I have always said it's the hardest league there is to win in consistently and easily. Every now and then you get the outliers, right, where you go boat race a team. But more times than not in the NFL, the games are close. They come down to the fourth quarter. You're a possession or a possession and a half away from winning and closing out a team, or being closed out yourself. So you got to keep things like that in mind. But I think that Sean is very cognizant, and I think it would be this way any year. We got to get off to a good start. But when you look at the schedule and where you're playing, the miles that you're putting on early on the first half of the schedule as opposed to the last half, you've got to have some success there. You've got to be able to manage expectations, and you've got to take your opportunities where you get them. There's no question about it.
I mean, it's funny. It's way too early, game 1 of the season, to say, ooh, it's a must win. But if you need 10 to get in, you better beat Tennessee and you have everything in your favor.
Yeah.
You are at home. You're facing a rookie quarterback, a team that wasn't very good last year. But what's interesting is that we always talk about the Broncos traveling time zones. They go to Indianapolis. I can't remember, because Indiana, at least when I lived there, was so screwed up. Sometimes they're East Coast time. Sometimes they're Central time. I don't know what it's going to be. But in their third game, right, they're West Coast, and then 2 weeks later, they are East Coast, sandwiched by a home game. And then they got to travel even further after the Philadelphia game on the East Coast to go all the way out to London to make that trip. So the schedule makers didn't make it easy on them. But that first game of the season, you're not going to miss the playoffs because you lost the first game of the season.
No.
But there's a great saying in baseball. There's 106, with the exception of the Rockies, of course. There's 162 games in a season. You win 60, you lose 60, and your season is decided on the other 42. Clearly, that is not the case for the Rockies this year. But the win 60 in the baseball world, that is that Tennessee game. That has to be a win, doesn't it?
Yes, because I think your target is 11 or 12.
Right.
I'm not going to go that far. There's still things that I need to see just for my own personal edification. But I would say that that game that you expect to go out and play well at home on opening day, and if you play well, you should win a football game against a team that you line up better than on paper. So, I mean, yes, this will become more of a take care of your business kind of season, because if you take care of your business, there are enough games that you should be able to win simply because you're a better football team. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting, very intriguing, very exciting season. It generally is one way or the other, but for once in a long while, we're really talking about this team contending. And that's what's different now. Now, all of a sudden, the surprise of getting to the playoffs that sustained us all so much for last year, the next natural step is, okay, well, that's an expectation. Even though Sean Payton and players have said, hey, you throw all the cards back on the table, you shuffle them, and you start from scratch. I get that. But this team is better suited to win than the team was a year ago at this time. They are better suited to win now than they were this time last year. So that's why the expectations are heightened.
Coming up after the break, NFL.com had an interesting article titled Top 5 Homegrown Duos in the NFL. As an example, Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb. They top the list. They happen to play for the Cowboys. Number 2, Jalen Hurts, Jalen Carter. Bringing this up, is there a duo from the Broncos on this list? Should there be? And if not, this year, do they have a potential fabulous dynamic duo next year, the year after? That's next. Everyone has their favorite barbecue spot. Mine, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew. My favorites, slowly smoked ribs, smoked corned beef Reuben, smoked meatloaf with a portobello balsamic cream sauce. And don't forget about Smokin' Dave's 16-hour smoked brisket and pork with one of their 4 homemade barbecue sauces. Great sides, you bet. Barbecue beans made with pork and brisket and their southern corn bake. Man, you got to try it. Plus, they have amazing non-barbecue entrees on the menu. Go where I go, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew in North Denver.
Ever wondered where city and county fleet vehicles go when they retire? Now's your chance to find out and score big. Imagine driving away with a great deal on a reliable vehicle. For over 45 years, Roller Auction has been the trusted source for government fleet vehicles and equipment. Trucks, SUVs, sedans, and more, all selling to the highest bidder. Don't miss out. Visit roller.bid/hot takes to get auction updates today. Your next vehicle could be just a click away.
Spice up your next night out at Nola Jane and Lodo. Authentic Cajun cuisine like andouille sausage gumbo with dirty rice, crawfish etouffee, as well as 6 different po' boys like soft-shell crab and shrimp. Come in before or after a game at Ball Arena. Host a party or party on their rooftop deck overlooking Market Street during happy hour from 11 a.m. to 5. Plus, Nola Jane caters, delivers, and the kitchen is open late night. Make Nola Jane your new favorite spot to eat, drink, and party like it's Mardi Gras.
Ferguson's Heating and Cooling is the best in Denver, and their customers agree. Ferguson's has 165 5-star Google reviews, and here's one from Betsy. Highly professional, prompt, and honest. I switched to Ferguson's when I became aware my former company was trying to sell me a whole new system I didn't need. Ferguson's is an honest, working family-owned business that'll give you a fair price, the highest quality parts and equipment, and they always show up on time. You can trust the Ferguson family like you trust your own family. Go to fergusonsheatingandcooling.com.
Everyone has their favorite sports bar. Mine, the Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch in the DTC. Both locations are everything a sports bar should be. An upscale menu with 12 different burgers, outstanding wings, and my favorite, the Philly cheesesteak egg rolls. They've got every game on the NFL Sunday Ticket, MLB Extra Innings, NHL Center Ice, NBA League Pass, plus soccer, rugby, and UFC. Sportsbook is a hangout bar or great for private parties. The Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch, the DTC, and coming soon to Parker. They are the sports bar.
Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos in Blackhawk have another incredible promotion. They'll be giving away a new Sea-Doo, four-wheeler, or the cash award from the Big Wheel Spin, plus $7,500 in cash. The grand prize drawing is the weekend of August 16th, and get finalist entries every 45 minutes from 10 a.m. to midnight during their daily cash drawing, with a locked-up jackpot of $100 or more. Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos. Loose slots, great promotions, great food, and a family-owned casino that treats you like family.
And welcome back. Hot Takes, Goodman and Haertl. Time now for What's Trending.
What's Trending is presented by Nola Jane in the heart of Lodo. No one does Cajun cuisine better than Nola Jane. Go see why their award-winning menu is the best in town.
NFL.com, interesting article titled Top 5 Homegrown Duos in the NFL. And one consistent thing is a lot of these guys on this list are young, but not all under the age of 25 young. The list is Cowboys #1, Parsons and Lamb; Eagles, Hurts and Jalen Carter; Lions, Aiden Hutchinson and Jamar Gibbs; Jets, Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson; Texans, C.J. Stroud, Will Anderson. There are a pair of Broncos who deserve to be on this list over one of the other duos.
Deserve? I mean, where would you go? Pat Surtain obviously is exhibit number one. So who do you match with Pat Surtain?
Quinn Miners, who's widely considered arguably the best guard in football.
And that's where I would have gone. Ahead of Benito and Nix, the guys that are the up and comers. It would be Quinn Miners. Not a very sexy pick, but to me, that's a pretty good tandem right there.
Here, let's do some quick math here. This is based on 22 position players in the NFL, right?
Right.
11 on offense, 11 on defense. There are 32 teams. You'd be pretty hard-pressed to find too many teams who can say they have two players who are the best at their position in the NFL. Chris Jones is no longer the top defensive tackle in the league, although he's up there. Pair him with Mahomes. But looking at the list as it is laid out, Micah Parsons, fine, best middle linebacker in the league. Is CeeDee Lamb the best receiver in the league? No. Is Hurts the best quarterback in the league? No. Is Aiden Hutchinson the best defensive end in the league? You might want to say so, if that's fine. I would take TJ Watt, but is Gibbs the best running back in the league? No. Is Garrett Wilson the best wide receiver in the league? No. CJ Stroud, best quarterback in the league? Will Anderson, the best defensive end in the league? No. Nope. Surtain, best defensive back, and Quinn Miners, best guard.
Yeah, when you look at it that way, I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Now, here's another one that's not on this list that you can make the case should be on the list. I'm not saying that this guy is tops, but I sure as hell believe he is top 3. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, that's homegrown.
Yeah,
how in the world is that not on the list?
Yeah, that is a great question. That is the most shocking omission out of the top 5 that they listed, because those two men are in absolute lockstep, and they are both breathtaking talents.
I mean, when you look at the Bills, Josh Allen, if you want to say he's the top quarterback in the league, who are you pairing him with on the Bills? Nobody.
Yeah, that's a tougher one. Yeah, right. You're right. Yeah.
I mean, you can go down the list. Justin Herbert, considered a great quarterback. He's not top 3, but who else are you pairing with him? Ladd McConkey? Who are you pairing with him?
Point made.
Right. So I think you can make the case for Surtain and Miners if you wanted to. With that, who could be on this list next year? And the reason why, let's face it, that the Broncos duo is not on the list is because people look at offensive guards like, okay, well, that's nice. You give me a skill position player. Give me a guy that I can literally have stats for, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So with that, who could be on this list next year or the year after?
Well, if we're taking away Surtain and Miners,
Surtain would be on a list next year.
But I'll go ahead and remove them and say and I will give you another tandem to pay attention to and then try to make an argument for it.
Okay.
Just an argument. I think that if you've got Nick Bonito at 13.5 sacks again this year, okay?
And go with him as a possibility too.
Let's just say that continues and you have Nick Bonito. Now you got to find a match with him.
You do. It's Pat Surtain. That's it. You're not taking Surtain off this list just to come up with a brand new duo.
But I'm making a point that I think you can get a couple of duo. I think you can get a couple of more options. You don't have to go with Surtain every single time. I mean, what if Nix throws for 4,100 yards and 41 touchdowns and 8 interceptions, which, by the way, don't chuckle at. He was on pace for that over his last 12 games. Right. That was the type of season that he was on a pace for. His first 4 games slowed him down a little bit on that pace. So I'm just saying that, yes, it will always be Pat Surtain and someone else without question, right?
So who would it be? Bonito?
It's good to have options. Good to have options.
Yeah. So next year, do you think it would be, if you had to submit a form on behalf of the Denver Broncos, projecting out through this year, would your submission, like the Walter Payton Man of the Year award, every team submits a player, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to submit a duo. Is it going to be Surtain and Nix or Surtain and Bonito? And oh, by the way, Nick Bonito said over the weekend that he and his team are negotiating with the Broncos. No one should be surprised by that. No. I'll just be curious to see if something is done by Friday, which is the start officially of practices. The veterans report tomorrow.
I think that Bonito and Surtain it is a very intriguing possibility, especially if you think about the Broncos in terms of the number one defense in the league. If the Broncos are the number one defense in the league, if they are a generally considered great defense, I'm not going to get into your term, historic defense.
Right.
That's way down the road. But if they are the best defense in the league, then you're getting great play out of at least 2 guys that we know. There's others that they're getting great play from. But if you've got Bonito at 13.5, 15 kinds of that kind of player, 15 sacks, disrupting games like that with those kinds of numbers, that would be probably my entrant.
All right.
To that combination.
Off the top of your head, historically, because I didn't start covering the Broncos with Floyd Little. You may have.
Funny. Really funny.
What is the best Broncos duo of all time? If you had to submit a list.
Are we considering John Elway homegrown?
Yes.
Okay.
I am, because he started his career with the Denver Broncos.
Right.
I understand we can get into semantics on was he originally drafted. At the end of the day, Scottie Pippen is an original Bull,
right?
Even though it was a draft day trade.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. Okay.
So
fair.
if you had to submit a duo to the NFL's all-time duos, what would your be? Who would be your submission? What duo would be your submission?
Would TD and Elway be the easy answer? Maybe not the right answer, but an easy one.
It'd be the easy answer, but it'd be the wrong answer.
Yeah.
The right answer is Manning and Von Miller.
Okay.
Peyton Manning was at the top of his game in 2012.
Right.
2013.
Yep.
Granted, he fell off at the end of 2014, and his career was never the same in 2015.
But the 2-year stretch was magical. So
Terrell Davis, to me, is a stronger part of the duo than Elway was.
Yes, I don't disagree with that.
Elway was on the tail end of his career.
Right.
Manning, despite being in the league for all those years, had a historic season in 2013. I would submit Manning and Von Miller. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, that one's hard when you stop to consider Vaughn at the height of his powers.
Yep.
Right? And both of them created iconic moments in Denver Broncos history. You think of those 2 years with Peyton Manning.
Yep.
It's two of the greatest years that he had as a quarterback, even with all those years in Indianapolis.
Right.
And Vaughn was never better than those couple of years right in there. My goodness.
Here's one way to put it.
Yeah.
Many will argue during the Manning years, the best team that they had was 2012. That was their best team. Yeah. Overall, top to bottom. 2013, their offense was out of this world. Defense wasn't as good. Vaughn only played 9 games. But in 2012, Vaughn had 18 and a half sacks.
Yeah.
And while Manning got off to a slow start, he was still terrific. You're really basing it on one season instead of basing it on multiple seasons.
Yeah. But that's fair. You got to have multiple seasons, though. I mean, you can't just do it on one season, and those guys did it in multiple seasons. That's a pretty good 1-2 punch, by the way, if you're rolling out Peyton Manning and Von Miller.
Right.
2 first ballot Hall of Famers in the NFL. I mean, it's tough to do much better than that.
I mean, Manning in 2012, 37 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Quarterback rating was 106, and his QBR was 79. He had a phenomenal season.
Right.
Now, granted, in 2013, 55 touchdowns, 10 interceptions.
Insane.
Right.
Insane.
But, I mean, Terrell Davis was insane over 3 years. John Elway was still very good, but not in Peyton Manning's level.
No.
But I think that would be my vote.
Yeah.
I think that I mean, if I had to rank the greatest quarterbacks in Broncos history, sorry, John Elway, Peyton Manning's at the top of that list too. Best quarterback to ever put on a Broncos uniform is Peyton Manning.
I don't know. How much pushback would you really get for that?
Why would I care? It's my opinion.
I mean, I'm not saying that. I'm saying how much I don't think that you'd get a lot of disagreement. I mean, I'm kind of thinking
you would
because of the body of work and the amount and what we've always talked about Elway being the leading face of the Mount Rushmore.
He is.
And he is.
He's the most important
for a lot of reasons.
Important athlete in the history of this city, and I don't think there will ever be a close second. Ever. But Peyton Manning, he had two of his 4 years, 2 of his best years were in Denver.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming off of a neck injury that would have had other people long retired. So,
and by the way, the first year coming off of that neck injury was 2012.
Yeah.
That was right after the neck injury.
Yeah.
And he still lit it up.
Yeah, he was remarkable.
John Elway was an unbelievable quarterback, but he never came close to engineering an offense like Manning did. Now, granted, Manning had far more weapons. The argument for Elway is always, well, look at the weapons around him. Who do you have at running back? Who do you have at wide receiver? Those are all fair things.
Sure.
And then when he had the pieces put together on offense with Sharp, McCaffrey, Rod Smith, Terrell Davis, an unbelievable offensive line with a great zone blocking scheme. And, oh, by the way, pretty darn good defense as well. They won back-to-back Super Bowls.
Yeah.
I'm with you on it. I understand Elway was a Super Bowl MVP. I get that. But in terms of who is the best quarterback to ever put on a Broncos uniform, it's kind of like, who are you going to side with? Your biological son, or are you going to side with your adopted son? The biological son is John Elway. The adopted son is Peyton Manning. And you always have an extra little room in your heart for the biological son.
And of course, Peyton Manning wasn't homegrown, so really kind of tilts the whole argument anyway. But in terms of tandems tied together at the same time at the peaks of their power, even Peyton Manning late in his career, to your point, had two of his best seasons ever in Denver. Remarkable. Yeah. Good
All
stuff.
right, the veterans report tomorrow. When are we out there for the first time, Bruce?
I think it's going to be, I think tomorrow we're going to be talked at. I don't know. I think that veterans are going to report tomorrow. I think they're going to be on the field for the first time on Wednesday. So I think that we're hoping to get Peyton and Payton tomorrow. And then it's off to the races for Wednesday and Thursday with the two ramp-up days. And then Friday, we get 800 ticket-bearing customers at the south end of the facility in what was a parking lot on risers that have been built into stands. It's going to be a very different feel out there, Eric. So, but we're looking forward to it, and let it come. Let's go.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Hot Takes Goodman and Haertl. Make it the best possible day you can.